My name is Ashish Shah and I'm the Senior Director of Philanthropy at Indiaspora. I am delighted to announce our next segment, which will be a panel discussion. The panel is titled Generosity for Impact, Reflections from Diaspora Philanthropists. And the objective of the panel is to have our panelists reflect on their giving journey, provide their perspective on philanthropy's response to COVID, and more broadly on the possibilities for diaspora giving going forward. We are really excited to have a truly global panel for this session. We have Sarosh Zaiwalla joining us from the UK. Sarosh is the senior partner and founder of Zaiwalla & Co. and an appointed patron of Healing Little Hearts. We have Lata Krishnan joining from the US. Lata is the founder and co-chair of the American India Foundation. And we have Dr. Aditya Jha joining from Canada. Dr. Jha is the founder and chairman of POA Educational Foundation. Sarosh, Lata, and Dr. Jha are all featured on the Philanthropy Leaders List. To moderate this panel, we are delighted to have Ankur Vora, who is the Chief Strategy Officer at the Gates Foundation. Ankur has offered us incredible support as a juror for our Philanthropy Leaders List. So welcome all, and Ankur, over to you.
Thank you, Ashish. And let me just kick off by congratulating the 100 philanthropists who have been nominated and felicitated for what they've done for just doing good in the world. And congratulations to Indiaspora for pushing this agenda forward. So with that, let me turn to our esteemed panelists, Aditya, Lata, and Sarosh. I don't see you on the screen. If you could just turn on your video. All three of you have been amazing in terms of your generosity, both in terms of your wealth, but also in terms of your time and your voice. Can I just start by getting a little bit of the landscape of what you're focusing on today in terms of how are you contributing as a philanthropist? Maybe I'll start with you, Lata.
Yeah. Hey, Ankur, nice to meet you virtually. And thank you to the Indiaspora team for setting this up. But I also just must first say, I hope the audience here, that you and your families are well and staying safe. And a particular shout out to all the nonprofits out there who work so tremendously hard to not just address COVID, but all the issues that this particular diaspora is focused on today. Our family is focused largely in the Bay Area on the issues of education and youth, on economic empowerment of women, on criminal justice, the environment, and then we also focus a little bit on East Africa, and of course a lot of my time is spent on India. So that's our focus currently.
That is great. And I've seen some of the work you've done through American India Foundation. It's just inspiring. So thank you for what you do. Maybe I'll turn to you, Aditya, next, the same question of just the focus of your philanthropic efforts today.
So I grew up in a village, the border of Nepal and Bihar. And for me, everything has been really learning from the ground up. I had a great success. First company, software company got acquired. And the quick conclusion was that I should support education. And that was the easy one from my point of view. That is that I set up a few endowments at different universities in Canada. And primarily, I decided to support through what we call here bursary, where I learned the difference between a scholarship and bursary. that is, which I didn't understand before. So I have 20 of them. But what is difficult and very fulfilling, and still I'm trying to figure it out properly. One was that by chance I started working with the native community of Canada, Aboriginal community. And I met with their Grand Chief and I said, as much there is a anger and anguish amongst the First Nations people for what has happened to them. One of the things they are not focused on is to create wealth. And I had some serious discussions. So I ran for 5 years an initiative to nurture entrepreneurship amongst the First Nations people. We call them here First Nations. So that was one. And during COVID, something accidentally happened. In fact, many things have happened in my life accidentally. Looks very brilliant when I describe it, but it happened accidentally. That I was stuck in Nepal and India for 11 months, and I decided to visit my village, which I had literally we had abandoned 40 years ago, and went back and acquired my father's land. And I saw the people who were working in the Middle East or Mumbai, Delhi, Pune, all these people coming back to villages. And I saw a tremendous opportunity. One, my 8 acres farm now produces phenomenally. In fact, I was listening to Mr. Deshpande. By the way, when I came to Canada, you were the one we all looked up to you. And amazing that what people in technology can do. So, when you were mentioning about, I would like to ask a question about your pond thing. Later, I'll hold myself. So, I thought that these arriving people who are coming back to village, if I can give some money to them and work in the speciality where they are a specialist. Somebody's auto mechanic, somebody does something. So these are 3 things which I have worked primarily.
That's great to hear. And did you say you were stuck in India, Nepal for 11 months?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's a long time to be able to see what's happening on the ground and actually be able to contribute.
That has produced 300 kgs of different vegetables. That's
amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aditya. Sarosh, I don't know whether you could hear the beginning of the conversation, but welcome. And my starting question was just to understand a little bit of the landscape of what you do today. What's your focus in philanthropy today?
First of all, thank you very much for honoring me with your conference by inviting me. I'm very, very happy to be here. And I must congratulate Sanjay Vora and the whole Indiaspora. And I hope that the Indiaspora will become international for supporting India and bringing charity about India and not just the United States and the rest of Europe. Well, for me, I think giving is the most important thing, and giving without expectations. And as a Parsi Russian, I was told that when you give, you do not expect return. And you also start off in a small way. It's very good, and I'm very honored that we have such eminent people who have brought about charities all over the world. But we all start from the nearness. Now, for example, what I do, if I find that instead of giving it to an organized charity in London or in India, if I find that somebody whom I know is poor and cannot afford to pay school fees or children's fees, I pay them. And I do so without expectation. And I now firmly believe as part of the universal law that when you give without expectation, the universe or God gives you 10 times in return. And so when you make a charity, no need to put your name, just help and assist people. The other thing which guides me in charity is reading Vedanta. Every night I read a Vedanta, and there's a chapter on charity. And that says that you give charity to encourage people to do well and not to make them beggars. And in the past in India, and I'm glad to see the change, people give charity for reserving their place in heaven and temple for communal charities. But we have seen that change, and I'm delighted to see that change, where we give it because all of us are one soul, part of one community and one world and one mankind. And that is something which I have always encouraged, and I do that. Having said that, as part of my contribution to India, 4 years ago, I established a scholarship at the Oxford University Summerville College for an Indian student. Now, what we can also do now, unless you reach the same stage as Danish and others who got the ability to and the energy to do so, charities, we changed the whole scene. There are also ordinary people like us, like me, but we all have to contribute back to the banking universe. Now, the scholarship is to bring one student from India, and each one of us in our own field, for example, I in the law and medical field, if there are young students who cannot afford, we can encourage them, we can guide them, we can make them interns with us, and see and bring them up. And I think that gives a joy to all of us to do so. And that is also so important. And therefore, I think we should give charity, but charity should not be beggary. Charity should be to create employment, create interest in the individual people. And I go to India and I go to Bombay and I see people on the street. And I say, look, they all have the same talents, but they have not had the opportunity. So our charity should aim to give opportunity to the younger generation. And I'm very pleased to see that this is what is happening with Indiaspora. And I would like to contribute in any way, every way, I'm not in the same league as the multimillionaires and billionaires, but we can all, at every level, contribute and make lives of ordinary people, those who are less fortunate than us, to come up. And that's what even if you look at the Vedanta, there's a chapter on it which I read every year. I read a page from that. So thank you very much for inviting me, and congratulations to Indiaspora. And I hope to see it grow, not only confined to Europe, but becoming really international, and encouraging Indians all over to give back without expectation to the ordinary, so that ordinary Indian human being will do well and have an opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarosh. I actually went to a Parsi school, so I did all of my schooling in a Parsi school. So the beginning of giving without expectations, some of the fundamental philosophies resonate deeply with me. I want to, now that we've laid the groundwork a little bit with understanding what everybody does, I want to focus on 3 or 4 different questions on sort of your learnings, your inspiration, and your advice you would give. So maybe a little bit shorter and quicker answers so I can get through a few of them. Maybe I'll turn to you, Lata, first. Just philanthropy is personal. And where we end up today, there's some deep roots to that. And so I'd love to understand a bit of what was your motivation, your inspiration for what you do today? And Lata, you're on mute.
I started this journey of mine 30 years ago as an entrepreneur, much like Desh and others, not quite at the same level, but, inspired by the generosity of the American spirit and the American system of philanthropy, made possible to us really by the education afforded to us by our parents. So we, my husband and I, started with education because that sort of, is common for all of us, especially those of us who have children. And we started with kids in the Bay Area, much like others on the call here, with scholarships for underprivileged kids in the local area. But philanthropy, Ankur, is a very big word that encompasses so many characteristics and perceptions today. But as it's clearly defined in the dictionary, it's a desire on the part of someone to improve the welfare of others, really. And so I suppose in its very basic form, that's how we started as a family. And I think that as I've been through the journey, especially with AIF, that experience of not just because I grew up outside of India most of my life. And so the experience of understanding what it really means to be poor. Secondly, what it means to live in rural India without the amenities that most of us are used to. And then, just sort of understanding one individual's point of view, and then trying to pair that with the American system of transparency and accountability and deliverables and all of that. And I think that that sort of juxtaposition of constantly trying to balance scale and impact with, making an impact in one life is what I sort of work on. And as we've sort of built our own family foundation and the various focus groups that we have, I think that the piece that I really focus on is. Of course, scale and impact is important, but I think that when you really help one child achieve an education, to me as an entrepreneur, that's the IPO I'm seeking.
That is great to hear. And it sounds like it's an ongoing journey for you that started a long time back. Was there 1 or 2 moments of inflection that propelled you to say, I want to do more, I want to do differently? Because I'm assuming your philanthropic journey has evolved from when you started to where you are right now.
I think that's right. I think that is right, Ankur. While we might have started sort of at a very basic level, so to speak, having come from East Africa, where the Indian diaspora was not involved at all in local community, we felt, and my husband's also from East Africa. We felt that it was particularly important for us as the diaspora to focus on issues locally, right here, where we live, and the areas that afforded us this ability to give back. And so that's why we focus a lot of our attention in the local area. And of course, the issues, there are so many issues to focus on, and there's no dearth of them, certainly in India with magnitude. But I think the only way to really understand what grabs one's attention is to get started. There are a lot of people who wait for the right moment, a milestone, a certain amount of wealth when their kids grow up, whatever it is. But honestly, I think the only way you can start this journey is simply like Nike says it, just do it, just get started.
I love that, just do it. And it's true for a lot of people. They wait for the perfect moment, in their lives, the perfect moment or the perfect philanthropic endeavor or opportunity that they see. And sometimes it's just better to start. So truly appreciate that. Aditya, I want to turn to you, similar line of questioning, but just a lot of Indians or folks in the Indian diaspora, for very good reasons, focus on India. You've done a little bit of that, but you've also focused on sort of the native communities in Canada. And so would love to understand a little bit more about how you think about where you focus and also just how that journey has changed over the course of time.
So Ankur, like most of us, my initial giving was in the sense of charity. And I think I call myself, I have graduated from charity to philanthropy in my own way. And to me, philanthropy is not giving, it is getting. And it may sound a little bit odd that how you are giving, but you are getting. What I have found, in a factual way, also, I have received more than the 7-figure I would have given, but I have gotten much more than that. But as my philanthropic journey started about 18 years ago, because till then, my only goal was coming from a village was that how do I become a big guy in a big multinational white man's company, I said I will never become CEO, so I should become the number 2 type of thinking. But as I started working with the Aboriginal people and also now more, I'm going to focus more and more to India and Nepal and more to the villages. My views have changed significantly that myself, when I am doing something, basically that's what I believe in. So I'm giving to my belief. Beneficiaries are others. So to me, philanthropy has reached that place that when I'm giving to myself, but people, it's like having a garden outside my house, beautiful garden. I did it for myself, but anybody can walk and get the fragrance of that and the beauty of that, they can enjoy that. So the other thing which I have progressed is I am now less thinking of giving to education, because these 11 months showed me that to make some of those my village guys, especially most of them whom I left, their children, grandchildren, because they had their marriage before. Education is a very long journey, but entrepreneurship is a shorter journey. You don't need a undergrad degree or anything to do it. You can open a chai ka dukan and you can open anything. So my focus is more going to be how small givings can create a family income and income for some few people. That was the thing. And I just said in the beginning, for me, charity is a low end of the word. It has a paternalistic view. I am good, I'm well off, I'm a good guy, I want to take care of you, I want to give you. No. As I said, I want to give to myself. It's like, it may be too big an example. Gandhi didn't say, hey, I want to give independence to you guys. He said, I believe in independence. Tilak said, I believe in independence. And I'm going to do everything to get that belief in place. So I see philanthropy that way.
Love to hear that. And that's Sarosh, as I turn to you, there's a common theme over here in terms of giving versus getting, charity versus philanthropy, band-aid solutions versus actually investing in changing the root causes. And both of you talked a little bit about that. Sarosh, where does that come from for you? Was this something that was just deeply ingrained in your upbringing, or is this something that came later in life as you started doing your philanthropic work and you said, you know what, I don't want to focus on giving, I want to focus much more on sort of changing the system?
It came to me, I started off wanting to change the system because I found it was so much unfair situation in India and this disparity between the rich and poor. And I came from the upper middle class family in Bombay. But for me, I can completely agree with Aditya and Lata, and I particularly agree with Aditya, that there is a joy in giving. And my experience, I can very honestly say from my experience, that whatever I have achieved success, completely unrelated in law and everything, is somehow or the other the grace of the universe which giving. And I have always, from the time I was a child, 10 or 11 years old, whenever I had an opportunity to help, I would help. And somehow or the other, that has the effect, and you can't see, but it creates an opportunity, and you're suddenly going. And now as I get old, and I realize and I look back, and I said, what is the reason for all the success and everything? And coming to England as a brown skin and then succeeding. And I think that there is some universal power which gives a joy of giving. And I do very firmly believe there is energy and everything is observed. And we simply have the joy of giving. And that's the most important thing. I also agree with Lata that you have to, when you give to not just to your own community, but to everybody, because we are all part of one world and one mankind. And we must recognize that every human being is part of soul, which is part of God's soul. And therefore you can enjoy life, you can have fun, but with honesty and fairness. If you give back to those who deserve, not to anyone. And I don't like the word charity, because charity means giving a sort of, as Swami Parthasarthi says, Vedanta, you're encouraging beggary, but you have to encourage entrepreneurship. As Aditya said, when you find somebody who is going to be an entrepreneur and does not have an opportunity, invest some money. I don't mind investing a few £1,000, and I don't want anything back. All I say is, in future, you must help somebody. And I think that is all we need to understand. And there is much more joy in giving and putting our name and saying, I've given so much and I've given that. And there is something which we all can experience there. There's a great joy there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarosh. I want to switch a little bit in the last 5-10 minutes from your personal journeys to a little bit on the sector, which is, we live in an era where wealth creation is unparalleled to any other point in history. And in absolute numbers, actually, philanthropy itself is also growing, and it's good. And everybody on this call and all the people who are felicitating, they're doing their bit for the world. But I think we would all probably agree that more can be done, and less is being done than it should be done today. And so as you just think about your peers, folks around you who probably don't do as much as you do, is there any reflections you have in terms of what needs to change for that mindset, that giving paradigm to change, so that there's just a lot of the wealth that's created does go to the places that needs it most? So Sarosh, I'll start with you again.
I think we need to light the spark in the individual's heart. And you don't light the spark by telling them to do this, because people don't like being told. But you make them realize by example and show how, get them to encourage to give something and make them feel that happiness. And that's what I would do. And I'm always trying to encourage people from doing so. And it starts in a small way, and it can go into a big way. Giving opportunities for job, giving opportunities for entrepreneurship, and also in the health sector, building hospitals. Because even if you light the spark in the heart of an individual, when he's not so well off, when he becomes well off, the spark will turn into a fire, and that will make him develop. And we have to accept that the world has changed. And the COVID pandemic has made us recognize the world is going to change even more. So let's all contribute to make the change into a better world in a different way. Technology is there, which is very good, but also bring a little bit of heart into all these things. and make people realize the importance of doing it the right way.
Lata, same question.
Yeah, I completely agree with Sarosh as well. And I'd say that a particular focus of mine is also to sort of just focus on the next generation. You know, at the end of the day, the youth and the next gen are the stewards of both our wealth and our philanthropy. And you know, personally, I'd love to give it all away before I pop off. But in case I don't quite get there, you know, my kids are going to be the stewards. And so I am far more optimistic about the children of the next generation and their desire to make a better world. And so I think educating them at an early point on how one thinks about issues, how one can scale up. I mean, for example, our family has launched something called the Banyan Impact Fellowship with the AIF, which focuses on sending young Americans to India, young adults to India for a fellowship of 10 months. And that teaches them not only about the landscape in India, the development issues in India, but it's an enormous learning on leadership, on how to be a better leader. It doesn't matter whether you end up working at a consulting firm or at an investment bank. It gives you some of the tenets and the you know, human skills, the empathy that is required in any job. And to me, those are priceless. And so, you know, helping the youth get educated and provide them with better and bigger platforms to be engaged in is, I think, extremely important.
Aditya, same question, and we're running out of time, so maybe a short answer from you, sir.
Yeah, two things I wanted to just highlight. For me, one area which I never hear, but what I experienced when I was in last 11 months trying to get those 8 acres of land, parental land, to growing everything, is there is a tremendous amount of resources and policies in India that if just all of us forget about giving any money, if we can bring it to the right people, like for the pond, Mr. Deshpande said, you know, if you do a 1 hectare of pond, you get 5 lakhs of rupees as a subsidy from the government with a solar panel, everything. If you buy pumping set, there's a 40% discount. But getting that is, I don't know, it's just so difficult, even for somebody like me to get something like that, just to prove a point that you can get it. So my focus increasingly is going to be wherever I am, that how I can get the government, because giving, there's a public problem. Private giving cannot solve public problem. In my mind, public problem has to be addressed by public money, and how private people can spearhead to that money is given properly. So that's one. Second is I have started believing that the professional giving is very heavy, like there's a process heavy, all kinds of things heavy. So I want to bring giving to myself, my sphere of influence, my village where I grew up, my relatives, my employees. If each of us can just give in our sphere of influence, I think there can be tremendous impact, because I know where to give, how to give, what is the impact going to be than unknown people.
That is great. And all three of you have shared a wealth of pearls of wisdoms. I wrote down giving without expectations, graduating from charity to philanthropy, just doing it, lighting the spark, focusing on the next generation. There's a whole set of things that you've left this audience with. And so I thank you for that. I see MR on the screen. MR, I did want to give the 3 panelists a chance to say one final thing, just to this audience of whatever 100 people we have over here and the many others who are going to watch this offline. Just one piece of advice you'd want to give and leave a message for folks. Aditya, I'll start with you.
Yeah, if one thing I would like to say is that, as Lata mentioned, I want to highlight that wherever we are, we have to give the most there just because they're well off. People think giving to symphony or opera is like it's giving to the rich. No, these societies are rich because of many other things. So give where you are, most of it.
Perfect. Love that. Sarosh?
Yeah, I think Indiaspora should have a motto and spread the word around, and that should be the joy in giving. And that people joy in giving, because joy in giving is getting your own joy back, and that getting happiness is more important than getting millions of dollars. Because after a certain limit of earning money is of little value. The joy in giving is something which we should follow.
Love that sentiment. Lata, I'm going to give you the final word before MR comes on.
I was just going to say, be curious, bold, and authentic. And remember that it's not just about nourishing your pocket, but what's more important is nourishing your soul. And when you impact someone's life, that's what you're doing. And so I would encourage all philanthropists to do it broadly, do it fast, and do it now.
Love that. That's a lovely note to end on. And I just want to thank Lata, you, Aditya, and Sarosh for all you do and the time you've given to this diaspora today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ankur. That was a terrific session you moderated. Again, Ankur Vora, ladies and gentlemen, the Chief Strategy Officer at the Gates Foundation. We also thank you to the three panelists, Lata, Aditya, and Sarosh, for their great conversations and words of wisdom.